Rereading books, concepts, and other things that have had a significant emotional impact on you is something I really believe in. Speaking of the number of books you've read in a year has become a socially acceptable adult flex in recent years. I promise, I've succeeded. Impress guests at a cocktail reception with anecdotes from the 52 novels you read in the previous year. However, I've come to the conclusion that reading 52 books is not nearly as spectacular as reading one book and having it have a profound impact on you. Generally speaking, only a small percentage of the hundreds of books you will read in your lifetime will significantly alter the way you think. This also holds true for concepts and material in general. I've discovered that the Pareto principle, which states that 20% of inputs produce 80% of the impact, is insufficient when it comes to books, concepts, and material. In reality, I contend that 99% of the effect is produced by 1% of the consumer inputs. I reconsume those top 1% things routinely, at least once a year, whenever I locate them. Your experience with it varies even though the material might not. Every time you go, you will get fresh ideas and viewpoints. It's a lovely, forming thing. I'd want to go over one item on my top 1% list in today's article, Stanford University commencement address given by Steve Jobs in 2005. I watch this speech twice a year, minimum. Every time I watch, I gain new insights and understanding. Even though Steve was just human and far from flawless, his comments have had a lasting influence on me throughout the years. I would urge you to consider the man's comments even if you don't agree with him. These 7 timeless teachings and quotations from a renowned commencement address are presented here. Challenge the assumptions. Challenge the assumption, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I didn't know how going to college would help me make that decision. And here I was blowing all the savings my parents had amassed throughout their lifetime. I made the decision to drop out and had faith that everything will work out. Although it was somewhat frightening at the time, it turned out to be one of the finest choices I have ever made. I could stop taking the mandatory classes that I didn't find fascinating as soon as I dropped out and start attending the ones that seemed intriguing. One of the uncommon superpowers of the modern era is independent thought. You must form your own opinions if you want to blaze your own trail in life or in your job. The way things have always been done, the erroneous trade-offs, or the presumptions that people have led you to think, cannot limit you. The idea that, that's how it has always been done, served as the foundation for some of the worst choices I have ever made. Acquire the skill of scrutinizing the foundation of everything that seems off to you. Don't use someone else's life map to choose your own path. Challenge the presumptions. Form your own opinions, allow your curiosity to lead you, and a lot of the things I discovered later on that I came across by following my intuition and curiosity proved to be invaluable. I chose to enroll in a calligraphy class to learn how to do this because I had dropped out and could not attend the regular lessons any longer. I thought it intriguing because it was elegant, historical, and subtly artistic in a manner that science cannot duplicate. There was not the slightest chance that any of this would be useful in my life. However, it all came back to me 10 years later when we were creating the first Macintosh computer. And the Mac has all of it built in. The first computer with exquisite typography was this one. I feel obliged to discuss the importance of intellectual curiosity because this newsletter is called the Curiosity Chronicle. We are thrown into the enigmatic vastness of life without a map or lights. The majority of the time, we have to figure things out on our own, even though we hope that our parents, friends, relatives, or mentors can assist. If you embrace your curiosity, it may serve as your guide. Although it's difficult to forecast, positive things usually happen when you approach learning with a sincere, inspired interest. You should always have this enigmatic and potent force on your side. Follow your interest, believe in the dots. Personal computers might not have the gorgeous typography they have if I had never dropped out. And I would never have attended this calligraphy class. Naturally, in retrospect, it was hard to make the connections while I was a college student. However, 10 years later, it was still extremely evident. Once more, you can only join the dots when facing backward, you cannot connect the dots when facing forward. Therefore, you must have faith that in the future, the dots will somehow join. You must have faith in something, be it life, karma, destiny, or your instincts. This strategy has never failed me and has completely changed my life. One of the ideas that has had the biggest influence on my life in the past 10 years is the notion of we are but a collection of moments, choices, accomplishments, and setbacks. The thread that runs through them is our life. The problem is that when you add more dots, it's sometimes hard to detect that line. The links are hidden by the world's complexity, so, a great leap of faith is necessary for much of life. A solid conviction that those dots will join together somehow, even if it may be scary, they nevertheless do. Over and over, have trust in the dots at all times, return to the beginning point. I didn't realize it at the time, but my firing from Apple ended up being the best thing that could have happened to me. The lightness of being a beginning again, less certain of everything, took the place of the gravity of achievement. I was able to start one of my most creative phases of life because of it. Steve Jobs carried the burden of a massive public failure that the most of us will never encounter after he was fired from Apple. After all, he had lost his job at the firm he established. It's interesting to note that the public backlash brought about a mini renaissance in his life. It's simple to let the weight of outside influences consume you. You feel the weight of enormous expectations, exhaustion, and the strain of starting the race late. When you find yourself in that situation, remember the lightness of that time when you were a novice. Return, either literally or figuratively, to the beginning. Never give up, you must discover your passion. And it holds true for both your loves and your work. A significant portion of your life will be occupied by your work, and the only way to be genuinely fulfilled is to produce something that you are proud of. Furthermore, doing outstanding work requires love for what you do. Continue searching if you haven't found it yet. Avoid settling. Like anything that concerns the heart, you'll know when you found it. And as the years pass, it only becomes better and better, just like any wonderful relationship. Thus, keep searching till you locate it. Don't give up. If you have the freedom to choose, never settle for anything less than love in your job or in life. One of the main causes of settling is a low threshold for uncertainty. Because we are conditioned to fear uncertainty, we settle to avoid it. Refuse this temptation and urge, allow yourself to be a little bit more unsure than you normally would. Never give up. Important to remember, sometimes you have to make short-term concessions in order to avoid making long-term ones. The first thing to do while constructing a skyscraper is to dig a hole and create a strong foundation. That may feel like settling, and it's not very exciting or sexy, but getting the grunt labor done first can help you create the magnificent architectural masterpiece of your dreams. Remember me, the greatest useful tool I've ever found to assist me in making critical decisions in life is the realization that I won't be around for very long. Because practically everything just vanishes in the face of death, leaving just what is genuinely important: pride, external expectations, fear of failure, and disgrace. The best defense against the illusion that you have anything to lose, in my opinion, is to keep in mind that you will eventually die. As it is, you are nude. There's no excuse not to listen to your intuition. Steve Jobs had survived a near-death experience with pancreatic cancer a year before to this address. It served as a stark reminder of his own mortality and inevitable demise, but this near meeting gave light, not darkness. Life is both extremely lengthy and extremely brief at the same time. Many of us choose to disregard how fleeting life is. As a result, we become overwhelmed by our problems and forget that our valuable time is slipping away. Although we frequently don't realize it until it's too late, our time is limited. Recall that you must pass away. Remember me, remain hungry and foolish. Don't waste your time living someone else's life since it's finite. Avoid becoming ensnared by dogma, which is the outcome of other people's opinions. Make sure your inner voice is heard and not overpowered by the views of others. Above all, it is crucial to possess the bravery to trust your instincts and feelings. They seem to already be aware of your true ambitions. The rest is just incidental. Remain hungry. Remain naive. Maybe the greatest battle we will ever have to wage is the one against normality. I longed to fit in and dreaded being different as a child. This ambition resulted in poor choices that were based on uncertainty. it dawned on me later on that uniqueness is your greatest competitive advantage. Nobody can match you for being who you are. Each of us must fight back against fitting in and against normality in general. The world expects you to follow the rules and be normal. To keep your originality, you have to battle, daily and continuously. Steve Jobs was the first person in the world to realize this. It was so appropriate that he ended with his most well-known quote, which I shall quote for you all today. Remain hungry. Stay naive. These are insightful takeaways from one of the greatest speeches in history, full with wisdom. Set aside 15 minutes to view the entire speech video, and then come back to thank me. It will alter the way you see relationships, work, and other aspects of life. If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing for future content. Thank you for your support.